Talks over Iran's nuclear program are set to resume tomorrow after a round of negotiations earlier this month failed to seal an agreement. Israel has been staunchly opposed to a deal along with France, saying any lifting of sanctions against Iran would happen only if Tehran gave up its program. Meanwhile, Russia's president has voiced his optimism that a deal would be reached soon. RT's Paul Scott now reports.
On Monday, at the initiative of Russian President Vladimir Putin, he and his Iranian counterpart, Hassan Rouhani, had a phone conversation, after which the Russian president was quoted as saying that he believes there is now a real chance that Iran and the international community can come to an agreement over the country's nuclear program, an agreement that would eventually see the easing of sanctions on the country. Now, the staunchest opposition to that move is coming from Israel, who has strong support from France. France, of course, are in the negotiating group. In fact, French President François Hollande has been in Israel prior to those talks in Geneva on Wednesday. But despite the documented differences after the first round of talks, Vladimir Putin's optimism is shared by Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
There is speculation that the positive shift we now see in negotiations over Iran's nuclear program has only become possible because of pressure coming from sanctions against it. I suggest we leave it to historians to decide. We as diplomats simply can't afford to be dragged into these meaningless discussions. We now have a real chance to sign a solid deal, and if we let speculation lead us astray, we could lose this chance. There are many who won't be very upset if the talks collapse once again.
Lavrov also went on to say that Tehran has agreed to two stipulations specified by France at those earlier talks. That is to stop enriching uranium to 20% altogether and to limit the amount of uranium enriched to 3.5%. So it does seem that ahead of Wednesday's talks, there is a real sense of optimism that there could be a breakthrough which could end this decade-long standoff.
And let's now take a closer look at the terms of a possible nuclear agreement. International negotiators are demanding Iran holds uranium enrichment to the 20% level, blending down the existing stock to 5%. Tehran is also to limit the number of centrifuges used and allow broader monitoring of its nuclear facilities. World powers would then agree to unfreeze some Iranian assets and ease the sanctions currently crippling Iran's economy. And to discuss the situation around Iran's nuclear talks, former French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin joins us now live from Paris. Monsieur de Villepin, welcome to RT. It's fantastic to talk to you again. So France is widely accused of blocking a breakthrough during the previous talks. Was that the case, especially bearing in mind that France's position on Iran has always been more or less the same?
Well, that's not exactly true, because I was the one leading the negotiations in 2003. And at the time, under Jacques Chirac presidency, we got an agreement with UK, with Germany, and with Iran. It was President today Rouhani that was the negotiator. And then, under the presidency of Nicolas Sarkozy, then the position got a little more different and tougher. But I believe today what we have to understand, all of us, is that we have a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the region. It's a great opportunity for the world community because of the political change in Iran, because of President Rouhani, because of the stronger position of the moderates and the reformer in this country. So I believe that everything should be done to get a breakthrough, and this week this breakthrough is possible. There are three main questions that are on the table. The first one is the question of the plant of Iraq. The second one is the question of the right to enrichment of uranium, and it's a difficult question, and it has to be in phase of the NPT, of the 1970 signing of the NPT. And the third question is, what should we do with the stockpile of uranium, enriched uranium, which today Iran has in great quantity, approximately 180 kilos of uranium enriched up to 20%. But on these different questions, we have technical answers. So now what we have to look for is the wording of the text. And I believe that we are very close with the different countries, the 5+1, the 5 countries of the Security Council and Germany and Iran. We are very close to an agreement. The question is, how much are we ready to take the risk to sign the agreement? And I think to assess the importance of this agreement, we must understand that it is a process. Of course, we are not going to get the final agreement from scratch on Wednesday. But we can go in the process of an agreement with an intermediary agreement, and then we can progress and have a final agreement that will be better. So I think it's a chance, and we should take it. It is the interest of the region, because this will have strong consequences on the situation in Syria, on the situation in Lebanon, on the peace process. So this may change completely the dynamic of the region for good. On the contrary, if we don't sign the agreement, if we don't take all the chances to sign this agreement, we may have strong consequences, and we may face a strike on Iran coming from Israel.
Sure, and of course it's a combined effort of all the participants. But talking about previous talks again, the US has adopted a more positive approach here compared to previous negotiations, as I say. What do you make of the idea that France is playing out a good cop, bad cop scenario with the US, and real decision makers are still the US and Israel here?
Well, France has a strong legitimacy in this discussion, because France for many years has been involved since the start in the negotiation with Iran. French diplomacy knows well Iran and knows well the question of proliferation. Second, France, of course, has a temptation to take advantage of the withdrawal of the US in the region. France has very good relationship with Saudi Arabia, with the conservative monarchies of the Gulf, and of course has today a strong position with Israel. But this should help France to take the risk of going forward and to finalize an agreement. We have the technical capacities, we have the technical knowledge, and I believe that Iran today is ready to do a big step forward. So we have really to put pressure in order to sign this agreement. We should not let this opportunity pass, because we know that the consequences for the region will be worse than everything. It might be a signal for war in the region, which of course nobody wants.
Many are accusing Paris of siding with Israel. How big of a role does Israel play in all this?
Well, of course, Israel has a strong concern about its security, and we are, of course, in a position of willing to guarantee the security of Israel. So I believe that Israel, of course, has a legitimate concern about its security. But I believe that signing an agreement with Iran will give to Israel a lot more guarantees than not signing. Today, we have technical answers. There is a willingness of the IAEA, the International Atomic Agency, to control the situation in Iran. So I believe we have done such a work in order to answer the legitimate concern of Israel that we should be able to sign an agreement. Of course, there is a lot of people in Israel that still don't want to change anything, because Iran is the old enemy, and Israel wants to have to keep the situation as it is. But I believe that for everybody, if we want to solve the problem of the region, whether it's Syria, whether it's the situation in Lebanon, and we've seen this horrible terrorist attack in Lebanon, whether we want to go forward for the peace process, we need to go forward, and we need to reintegrate Iran in the regional community. So, of course, it's a big change. Of course, everything will be different if this agreement is signed, but it is the common interest of the whole region.
All right, of course, we all are waiting for a breakthrough tomorrow. All right, France's former Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin, thank you very much indeed for your time and for sharing your perspective with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.